Hi, I'm Darren Long from Delta Harbour, and this week's Hard Money podcast. Let's figure out what's happening with gold and silver. Are we at a bottom? Is this the moment we look back on and say, I'm glad I did? I think it is. I'm going to tell you why in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Here comes Hard Money.
There are no shortcuts to building wealth today. It takes time, effort, sacrifice, and diversification. But today, diversification means something different than it did in the past. You deserve a more secure way to protect and grow your wealth. At Delta Harbour, we take this to heart. Our mission is to help by inviting you to add physical gold and silver to your wealth strategy. Book a free consultation today and let us show you how to protect and grow your wealth through the ownership of physical gold and silver. Let us show you the Delta difference. Hey, everybody. Welcome again. This is the Hard Money Podcast, and good to have you along. John Scholes here, and alongside or above, beside, however your screen is fitted, Darren Long. He's the guy you want to reach out to anytime. Delta Harbour. Delta Harbour is the place to go. DeltaHarbour.com. If you haven't got the aspect, the part of your portfolio which contains physical silver and gold, Darren and his team and Rob and the guys are the ones you want to reach out to, whether you're buying 100 ounces or 100 million ounces. Get it started if you haven't done it already. The best time to do it was yesterday. Second best time is today. So get out there and see what you can do about that end of your portfolio. Reaching out by phone is simple, 1-877-323-GOLD. And if you search Delta Harbour on all your typical social media outlets, it's there as well, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. It's youtube.com/Delta Harbour, Harbour with a U. You can watch past podcasts and stuff from our radio show as well. So lots to get through. Darren, just let's get into it, pal. Easy one right off the top. I'm going to lob it over the plate. What's happening out there with gold and silver?
Well, welcome again to the Hard Money Podcast with Delta Harbour. And John, thank you for that introduction. As always, it is a busy week indeed. This was a big one for us this week because maybe somebody was listening and heard us talk about the importance of understanding as investors the need to buy when people are fearful and the need to sell when people are being greedy. So we're going to touch on that today and a couple other topics. But John, every time gold and silver have a price breakdown in the middle of what is conceivably still an uptrend market, you get lots of people wanting to sell. And this is no different. This is the can of tuna going on sale, usually $3. It's on sale for 80 cents. Yeah. And so you better pick up more than one can because it's never been on sale like this before. And it's premium. You know, this is gold and silver. This is a tier one asset, gold. And, this situation where people sell into this fear, this is exacerbated to the downside and fueled by the strength of the U.S. dollars. People are like, is this 2008? Is this 2008 all over again? Are we crashing? Is it recession? And those points are out there. We discussed it last week. In fact, we also talked about the importance of understanding what the macro trends are right now about inflation and interest rates. And, it's getting more expensive to borrow money. So we're at the top cyclically of a market. And as that fear sets in, a lot of people sell. And the problem with that is that their emotion prevented them from buying cheaper on this particular cycle upwards. Take gold, for example. A lot of buying as it hit 2000, John. And unfortunately, this ended up being a short-term downside. So that fear kicks in and people sell prematurely. And of course, the banks and the various astute investors, some of which are at Delta Harbour, pick up that cheap bullion. And this week was certainly an example of it. Welcome aboard to all the new clients. I don't have my piece of paper with me, but I believe this was one of the record weeks for Delta Harbour. It's a big week. I know in gold it was for sure. We had to exhaust more than 3 different suppliers to just meet the requirements for what was being demanded by our clients this week. And this downside with this, the fueling of sorts by the higher US dollar, it gives fodder and ammunition, essentially, John, to the analysts who don't believe in gold and silver. And it gets dumped into the mainstream media like a pack of wild hyenas chasing a carcass around. And, this is ultimately what we've seen happen time and time again, 18 years in the business. And this is just another example of it. So the smart people are buying right now, John, the very smart, very astute. They see this cycle low and they are getting their toes wet, stacking, adding to their positions. And this is what we're going to talk about in today's show for sure.
Well, you said it's getting low and they're coming out. Do you think it's close to a bottom, or we're not there yet?
Well, I think we're very close to bottom, if not already bottom.
Wow.
In fact, I think the folks that sold into this short-term downside will be part of the crowd that's buying back in the next medium-term upside in both gold and silver. So ultimately, yeah, I do believe we're at very close to a bottom. 18 years in this business, John,
Yeah.
and I see that this habit of buying too high, it never gets broken, and this time was exactly the same. They're very emotional. Gold buyers that I said just a few minutes ago waited that mark of 2000, which was a very emotional and meaningful point at which a lot of insiders are starting to buy. This is getting out to the mainstream, and you hear the news start talking about gold being at 2000, approaching its all-time high. And yes, it went above 2000, almost to 2100. But this is exactly what happens when people get emotional about their investments, which they shouldn't be. And they think they're going to witness big things happen, which are going to occur. Gold and silver are going to go much higher, but all of the BS enters into the fold, and you get all the mainstream analysts talking down about gold. Gold's down 1% on the year. NASDAQ's off 25. Dow's down, 15, 20%. Yeah. TSX is off 10%, and yet analysts are picking on gold. Oh, it dumped. It's dumping. Horror sets in. Instead of talking about their own terrible markets, which are freaking people out, and we talked about it last week. And when this sets in, this fear sets in, there's nothing you can do for the mainstream investor. He or she just unfortunately sees this play out, and they sell into it, and unfortunately lose their position at a lower price. Last in, first out effect. So this is where we're at right now, and we want people to realize the opportunity that lies before them.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time last week talking about fear, and there's a lot of that in the marketplace right now. More people living paycheck to paycheck. We even talked about people skipping meals, which is unbelievable in a Western country, just to make ends meet. The fear of feeling, usually stops people from taking a risk, but should it? Because everyone locks up their purses, right?
Well, in my opinion, no, not at all. This is just smart investing 101. You should be, if you're in a position to own assets, if you have the income, if you have disposable income, if you're not borrowing to invest, in other words, what you need to do, and I know how hard this is. I know how this goes against every little grain in your brain saying, don't do it, but it's the truth. What you need to do is buy when folks are most fearful, John, and you need to sell when people are at their highest level of greed, at the height of greediness, and they're making exuberant decisions to continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, which is basically what we've seen. Stock markets, high degree of exuberance, overvalued. Real estate, high degree of exuberance, way overvalued. Every single mainstream analysis institution in the world that's worth anything has said for months upon months, even year plus now, Canada's overvalued. Canada's overvalued. Canada's overvalued. And yet people just dive in because it's all they know, John. It's what they do. They go to something that they're most comfortable with. The problem is they're buying at the very top of the market. Right. So they're taking all this time and effort, putting it into this market they think is going to go higher and higher and higher. And it's unfortunately not. It's breaking down. Cryptos, another great example we spoke about last week. This is exactly what I hesitate to say has made my partners and I and everybody else that's invested in gold and silver and done it this way so successful all these years, which is that we've always bought the fear. We've always bought the fear. We put our money where our mouth is and bought it. When people are fearful, when people are scared, when they're dumping all their positions, thinking, "Oh my God, gold's at 18, 20. It could go to $800." Where they pick one single article in which some idiot talks about the price of gold going down to $800, and everybody panics. And that's the one they pick on. Instead of taking a level-headed approach. And this is the importance of the connection that we have with our client base here at Delta. When does your dealer call you? It's a simple question. When you're dealing with people that you buy your gold and silver from, when do they call you? And I would never, ever do this to our clients because it's not right. I'll bet you get your calls when the price is high, right?
Right.
And rally in gold is 10 days into a price rally and somebody calls you saying this is going to the moon. You should buy now.
Right.
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 When were you getting that call to buy gold? When it hit 2000 or when it was at 1500, like when Delta was calling their clients?
Exactly.
This is the importance of the connection with a client base. And this is why this week is such a busy week at Delta. That's why we barely have time to do the show. But ultimately, that's because our clients are well connected to these thoughts and these principles and these philosophies that we have about buying the fear and selling the greed. So yeah, I think this is a great time to be owning gold and silver.
1-877-323-GOLD is where you want to start, deltaharbor.com. It also appears, Darren, that the market's right now experiencing a shock of sorts that are leading to big point losses, as you mentioned right off the top. Billions of dollars, man, evaporating value this week alone, right? Scary story.
That is very scary story. As we said last week, it's pure negligence not to discuss it. I mean, you have to talk about the good and the bad. When we talk about gold and silver, we don't shy away from the fact that gold's down in price. We talk about the value of understanding where we are in the cycle and knowing where we're at. Last week, we talked about, how many blue chip stocks are down, from the Teslas and Apples and Netflix and Revlons and GE and, Goodyear, big blue chip brands down 10, 20, 30, 50+%. And the indexes themselves, right? The Dow Jones down, TSX down, NASDAQ down, all the indices around the world, all down. Does it mean necessarily we're right there? We're on the doorstep, of some meltdown, some huge crash? No, not necessarily. But we could be right there for recession. We've called it. We think it is. We think that all the warning signs are in place. And we said numerous weeks ago on this very show, we didn't think this was going to be a typical recession that you could mark with typical markers, that you just see a couple of quarters of downside GDP and then all of a sudden you have contraction and recession. No, because we're calling for things like stagflation and maybe even worse, like we said last week, the term meltdown. So ultimately, when we're seeing this, we're in a real catch-22 position for sure.
Simple question, though. Do you think this is a really a good time to grab some gold and silver?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a good time to both gold and silver are oversold at the moment for sure, 100%. They've just bounced off a very short-term bottom. We think it's going to be very close to what we are calling the bottom for sure. And if you look at a chart of gold, I don't believe that gold would venture much lower here. And I'm staring at the chart right now. And if it did go further down at this point, I don't believe it goes below the long-term cycle low of about 1680 to 1730-ish at worst. And so we're there. I think that this is where it breaks out. And I think it happens right now. And I believe gold starts, I'd say at least a medium, if not long-term uptrend cycle here that takes it well past its all-time high. And if you look at silver, I mean, this is an absolute bargain. I mean, this is really where our focus should be, John, because it's at 2150 right now in that range and ultimately just off of its low. What a bargain, like unbelievable bargain. But anything is possible. Gold and silver could come off a little bit more. But I'll tell you right now, I believe silver represents the best and most undervalued commodity. If you look at a chart and you look at just the last, 2 months of silver, it's not natural, the movement that it took, how many down days there were, and how that ratio between gold and silver expanded dramatically. That's another hand playing a card somewhere that they hid under the table. That's a bank. That's an institution suppressing the price somewhat. And we are coming up to the close of options on the month. So the monthly options expiry date is coming up. So I do expect that could put some downward pressure in the very immediate short term on both gold and silver. But, silver is so oversold right now, and it appears as though it has caught some wind in its sails and it's ticking forward here. And I think it moves up from here, John.
It's funny. It seems like you guys have been right all along, from being among the first to talk about inflation, stagflation as well, to being spot on your call about falling housing markets. We did a couple shows on that in the recent past, and being dead on really about how this next big economic breakdown is going to create, a mad rush of investors moving into these metals, gold and silver, right?
Well, just look at the big picture, right? Inflation. We've done this to death, now over 8% and higher on paper in the US. It's coming up. We're going to see 7% at post here. Again, both the American and the Canadian economies over 10%. There's no two ways about it. You can measure it however you want, whatever data you want. Street level inflation is killing our pocket right now. Gas prices killing our pocket. Food prices killing our pockets. How are we supposed to survive, John? If you got to put gas in your tank at $2.20,
brutal,
$2.15, $2.10 a liter. Right. I saw yesterday Pierre Polivier do a post, interesting post. In the US, on average, the per liter price when converted to Canadian at the posted rate, $1.55 per liter, $1.55 per liter. Up here, we're paying $2.12 average yesterday. Insanity, just pure insanity. And nobody has the will to fix it. So you better believe the markets are going to crash and crash hard. I mean, this is not a soft landing by any stretch of the imagination. You are last in, you are first out. You're going to get hit hard. And, this is what happens when inflation hits and when interest rates start to rise in an inflationary environment to try and cool off this threat of inflation. False markets, right? I mean, look at cryptos as a perfect example. What were cryptos being touted as? The replacement for gold. Silly, totally silly. We knew it. I mean, we never ever rode that boat. And ultimately, I don't think we should, because it's not. It's not a proven asset to hold over the long term. Bitcoin is down some, I don't know, 35, 40% on the year. Most all the major cryptos are down. Look at the story with Luna. It was trading at $100 per token, but like a month and a half ago. And it's what, 1/10,000th of a penny right now.
Could you imagine?
Investors posting on TikTok how much they lost. It's ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous. Why did you invest in the first place? What good was it? Was it backed by anything, or was it just your imagination, the confidence of what you thought would be better down the road? This is the problem with all this stuff. It's all, it's all in the cloud. It doesn't exist, right? It just doesn't exist. And gold and silver are tangible. So you better believe that when your traditional assets start to decrease in value, stocks, your bonds, your mutual funds, your houses, real estate, you've got to turn to something that has a proven track record. That's gold and silver, right? Think of the debt that we're trying to service right now. Overvaluations in the stock markets. I think the next advancing phase for both gold and silver, John, are dramatic. I always think we should be cautious during the end of options expiry or here in the next couple of days. But I think that that's going to happen into the next end of week and into the very next early stages of next week. And then I think, I think that if we're careful and we're smart, these are bottoms. We buy off these bottoms, and gold and silver are no exception. But when nobody else is buying, that's your key to be buying. That's when people are fearful, and when people are all greedy and everyone's buying the same thing at the same time, that's your key to sell. Like real estate, right? We just saw that happen. That cycle's coming down. Buy the fear, sell the greed, be contrarian, right? My buying signals are starting to sprout everywhere in the gold and silver markets, John. And like I said, the decline, I think, is already here. We've already seen it happen in the bottoms here, and we start to test some resistance levels on the way back up, like we're seeing today, and hopefully tomorrow and through Friday as we tape here on Wednesday. Over the next week or two, there could be a nice move up. And I think that move culminates with gold breaching its all-time high, 2,200 to 2,300 for sure in that range. That's where I'm pegging it. And I think silver moves back to the somewhere between 27 and 31 range before maybe even fall hits this year. So that's where I see it going. And I think that, I'm certainly not alone in that. There are many analysts in the industry right now that are feeling very, very keen on that right now. And I think that's where we head. So, John, I'm excited. I want people buying at these dips. These are great levels to buy.
Yeah, people sometimes, have the idea that there's no other choices out there and they don't know where to go, but there is choice. There's lots of choice about there. Like, talking to you guys, and finally, if we've been doing these shows for so long, getting some physical metals into that account and opening one up to get started with you guys at Delta Harbour. What are the options for those who are just, been trapped under something heavy and never caught this show before? How about that?
Well, we're passionate about this, John. So if a person's listening, you're going to have to pardon the fact that sometimes we get very passionate, because frankly, there's a lot of bullshit to cut through. And that's the fact of the markets. There's a lot of people out there who say a lot of stupid things. And, headline grabbers in the media are everywhere. We know the day and age we're living in. We know what we're up against. We know what to expect. There are false flags everywhere, John, and you have to learn for yourself. you have to go to the source. You have to go to a place like Delta and research and read and understand and just get familiar overall with what gold and silver have done over the last 20, 30 years. And you'll find very quickly that if just opening up a chart of gold or silver, these are metals which actually have a real track record, which have actually produced really good results. And when it comes to opening up with Delta, start with the simple one, John. If you want to spend a few $100s, few $1,000s, take it home. Buy whatever product you see on our site, open up the account, pay for it, and take it home. We'll deliver it right to you. There's no problem, and we do that anywhere around the world. But here in our home base of Canada, we're delighted to speak with folks and give them the firsthand experience that has become synonymous with the name Delta Harbour. And our clients love it. And this is part of this whole calling clients when the price drops and not when the price is rising dramatically and saying, oh, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. This is the foolishness. And this is the BS part of the marketplace. It's the same thing in the stock market, same thing everywhere. But direct home delivery is the quickest way to get involved. Beyond that, if you don't feel that home delivery and home storage is safe, put it into a storage account. We have that option available, and we can show you how to do it. And it's in your name. This is a very, very safe and secure way to do it. And you can buy and sell by phone call and ultimately have the freedom to take delivery to home anytime you want or to a business and add and subtract bullion. And it's very easy. And we've made it easy because there doesn't need to be complexity involved. So you buy a hunk of gold in the form of a 1 ounce, 10 ounce, 1 kilo bar or 1 ounce coin. And you buy a hunk of silver. Again, 1 ounce coin, 10 ounce bar, 100 ounce bar, 1,000 ounce bar, whatever you feel is right for you. We'll talk about all the pros and cons of each, and you can put it into a storage account. And yeah, sure, there's a little fee attached to storing. That's to ensure your product, to make sure that it's taken care of, that you never have to be fearful that somebody will ever break into a vault or steal it from a vault. That won't happen. We have one-to-one insurance for that reason. And ultimately, it's something we've set up and been doing for a long time. And folks want to know, what are the wealthy doing? That's what they do. They store product and they put it here, in different places around the world because they want to have access to a hard, tangible asset that has a proven track record that can give them some diversity in their wealth and their wealth strategy. And that's how we do it. And again, step further. How about a Delta Vault account? And ultimately, this is a way for those that have watch the marketplace, for those that say, hey, price of silver, $21.50 US. Why am I paying 30?
Right.
Well, that's the high premiums that go hand in hand with the fact that, there's suppliers that just aren't willing to sell that cheap because this is a paper price. $21.50 is a paper price. And this is the physical price when you buy an actual bar or coin and factor in the cost of making it or fabricating it, factor in the cost of the artwork, and factor in the royalties involved, and factor in the markup that a dealer like Delta has to put into it. And they're not big. We live on margins of 6% or less on all products, and 6% is big, only for the very, very most hard to come by products. Usually it's in the 2 to 3% range, which if you're in retail, imagine trying to live on margins of 2 to 3%. So this is a volume game, and we want to be with our clients every step of the way. But that Delta Vault account takes the premiums right out of it, right? What I do is really simple. We take in silver, for example, 1,000 ounce bars, big 1 kilo bars, 100 ounce bars, even 10 ounce bars, and even coins. We put them into the vault, right? Now, when a client comes to us, they have the choice to buy a bar, 10 ounce bar, 100 ounce bar, 1 ounce, or they can say, hey, I don't want that. I want a Delta Vault account. I don't want to pay those high premiums. So what do? We give you an ounce out of that vault. It's 1-to-1. We never over hypothecate or do anything silly that's done in other paper markets. We actually put a single physical ounce aside for you. It's part of the storage plan that we have there. And you never ever pay those high premiums. You pay a very, very, very low premium and a cost of doing business. And we break it down for you. You can see the difference. And then if down the road you want to convert to 1 ounce coins, or you want to have 100 ounce bars, or you're feeling like there's a reason to make change, you can. But for those who just want exposure to physical gold and silver, this is by far the world's best and least expensive way to own physical gold and silver. So that Delta Vault account is there. And the option also, John, to use your collateral, which is your physical metal, as a way to get more product, well, that's open as well. We, in the Delta Vault account only, can leverage up to 80% of the value of your metal because the collateral's there in the vault, and you can use it to either keep your powder dry and hold back some of the money you would have otherwise invested, or you can add more than you would have typically got. So if you wanted to buy an ounce, instead you could have 3 ounces. And it's not for everyone, but John, for those who qualify, for those who seriously have an appetite for this type of account, this can lower your premiums, give you exposure to physical gold and silver, give you the ability to buy and sell by phone call. You're locked and loaded in all world markets from Sunday night to Friday night, 24 hours a day. So we can put in buy stops and buy sells. This is a really, really flexible way to invest in physical gold and silver. And then last but not least, John, we talk about it all the time, the ability to put gold and silver into a registered account.
Now we're talking.
A tax-free savings account.
Yeah.
Throw some silver in there. You have one that exists at another institution. Hey, you're at RBC, you're at Scotiabank, any other institution, no problem. You want to open up with Delta. We'll show you how to migrate some of that or all of it over to our partner Questrade and get you into the marketplace and get you some physical gold and silver, your TFSAs, RSPs, liras, lifts, rifts, even set up for the kids, right? Yeah. College, university, it's not going to get any cheaper. Inflation is a killer. But imagine you could hold a quality top tier asset like gold right now when your children are 3 or 4 or 5 years old in an RESP, contribute monthly, contribute quarterly, contribute biannually, put in whatever you want, whenever you want, get the government matching program happening, and then benefit from the gains on gold and silver, and all to just be there for your child's education when they need it the most. These are options that we have available here at Delta Harbour, and we are so happy and delighted to talk to people and get people into the market and come see our operation and what we do. And our door's wide open. We want to have people here. We want to show them how to cut through all the bullshit, John, and just get something real, get something tangible, and be part of something that's way bigger than people understand. This is gold and silver, top tier assets, and assets that a lot of the wealthy already own. So that's exactly how we get going here at Delta. And our name is synonymous with support, customer support. We're here every single step of the way. We'll hold your hand.
And that is it for this week. So if you want to reach out, as Darren says, just have a chat even before you dive right in there. That's always an option as well, right? Start investing now if you haven't opened up this part of your portfolio. Now is the time to do it for sure, and even more so tomorrow and the day after. So get on it. 1-877-323-GOLD, 1-877-323-GOLD. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can find more of them on their YouTube channel and also search them on social. That's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all Delta Harbour. That is Harbour with the U. And we'll catch you next time right here in the Hard Money Podcast.